that are similar to the real materials. So you've got this, well, travertine type material, and we'll have a look and see what marble and other things they've got in Revit that are close to that. And then the flooring as well is an interesting one. It's fairly short as perforated metal here, but then you've got tiles, I know, on the interior, which I think, again, stone, but we'll have a look and see what Revit has, which is similar, so you definitely get tiles that are very similar to that. So then, just looking in Revit, main thing is at first being able to get in and assign new materials to your objects. And so for a wall, remember, edit type, and then usually duplicate to make a new kind of wall. So this is generic 100mm, and I want to make it a 100mm wall that has this granite or marble, whatever that is, and so let's just call it marble cladding or veneer, something better, and then edit for the structure, and I can add in my new material. So I'm going to do something extra here. I'm going to change the layers. I'm going to insert to add in a new layer, and then I'm going to move it up so that it goes to the top, which means it should be on the exterior side. So if you haven't noticed this before in Revit, all the walls have an interior side, that's the bottom, and an exterior side, which is the top. And I'll just make it 20mm. Normally I'd only make it 10, but because it's stone, make it a bit more. And so I'll take the thickness of the structure back to 80, so that my wall still is 100mm in total. And then I'm going to assign my marble just to this top layer. But actually, before I do, I'll change the function to finish 1. And yeah, we'll leave it finish 1. And then the material, I'm going to browse and make my new material. So, looking through the list there, you might find something that's close to that stone. So I'm just having a quick look here. Can't see anything much. Maybe masonry is about the closest. So that's my starting point. And then I'm going to duplicate this as well. So I'm going to right click on that material, duplicate, and then I'll call this new material, well, masonry isn't a bad thing to have at the beginning, masonry stone veneer. So then the surface pattern, I definitely want to change that. Okay, so I don't want brickwork coming up on this, so I'm going to go to the pattern, and we don't want anything there, so I'm just going to choose no pattern. Cut pattern, you could leave a pattern there, and masonry and brickwork are basically, well, not, they're basically the same thing, even though you wouldn't think of stone and brick being the same as a material. They basically do work the same way, but it doesn't hurt to make it you know, slightly different to brickwork, just so it's not confusing. And then, but the main thing is the appearance, and that's really what I wanted to focus on. So, you've probably seen materials that use an image like this before, but I'm just going to make one again from scratch. So I'm going to right click here and then replace, and duplicate would be another option if you wanted to keep this and modify it. But I'll go to replace again. So hopefully you're getting used to this, thinking about the appearance and whether you need to replace it. Now, in my appearance folder, I'll be able to find in stone something pretty close to the whatever that material is. So, well, it's not like those travertine ones. No, I mean, that's about the closest. The coarse polished. Okay, so we've got this marble, image of marble, which is giving the look of that material, and that wouldn't be bad as a starting point. At least it's close, and when we render, get something similar to what you want. But then if you click on the file name just below the swatch, you'll see just in blue when you highlight, it'll have the file name. Usually it'll be a PNG file. So otherwise it'll be JPEG, and that'll be a reminder that it's a file. You can browse. So let's show that again. So you can browse by clicking on the file name, not the swatch. So on the file name, and so I can choose any of these images. Right, so these are all the material images that come with Revit, and it's not a bad selection. Remember, these are all set up to work as materials, so they'll tile, they'll repeat without showing seams. Okay, so that's actually a really good image library as a starting point. But then, like everything else, I've got another one for you on the P drive. And again, in interior design, you have material images. And then, well, I know in stones, we've got some limestone. The others maybe aren't great there, so that's what we want. So, but looking down in the list here, I haven't organised these into different folders, but you'll find a lot more just loose or separately. If you scroll down to finishes, okay, so you might find something there that's close. Just want to make sure you know about that one, and again, there are lots of good materials there. But again, we're probably not going to find exactly the one we want. I'm just going to get something that's close. So that's pretty close, actually. Okay, but you can see they're all JPEG files, or like I said, sometimes PNGs. And you can use any image file. So when you're browsing on the internet, if you see an image you like that you might want to use the material, just save it, and you can easily put that into any material. So I'll just click OK with that, and then clicking on the browse button, sorry, on the not browse button, on the swatch now, then I can see all the properties. Okay, so it's at the moment 1200 by 1200. That's the size this image will be in the scene. So if you think about a wall that's 2.5 meters high, we'll basically get 2 copies of this image, as you go up that wall. And so that's really the main thing. To get the size right, you need to know, again, its size in millimeters, the size that you want that image to be on your surfaces. The orientation and the location aren't so important really at this stage, so that's the main thing. Just make sure you can set the size, that's essential. So that's most of the material done. But have a look at some of the other properties. You've got the relief pattern, and so here that's giving the bumps. Right? And that's coming from the previous material. It's got that bump pattern, and if I click on it, it's got a size. So if I wanted to come up looking like tiles with the bumps overlaid on top of my image, I could leave this here. Right, so it's 1200 bumps, but remember we've got 4 tiles in each copy of the image, so they'd be, 300 roughly. And I don't really want those bumps, so I'll turn the relief pattern off. And bumps, finish bumps, basically do something similar. So you've got all those different options for materials. And then to show you one last thing with duplicate, you can also duplicate as generic. And that's a good thing to try with any material really, because then you'll see how it's really being made. A lot of the stuff's still hidden from you, like the reflectivity. So I couldn't adjust that before, but now, because it's a generic material, I can. So you might need to make it more or less shiny, and that's where you do it. Transparency as well, wasn't there before, but now it's an option. And so you can control all of those things with the sliders, but you'll see later you can actually use images to control things like the transparency. So you think about stained glass windows, lots of objects have variable transparency. We'll get to that later. The main thing at first is that you can at least have some of the those parameters done using images, so I want to see how that looks on my wall now. I can't see it, but if I go to realistic, I should be able to. And there we are. So that's not far off, actually, the real one. And so then any other wall, I could simply choose from the list here, if I remember the name, what do I call it? 100mm marble veneer. There we are. So it's all set up for me, ready to go after I've done it for one. And that is a big focus of this assignment. You'll see when you start doing it, the modelling and everything that people get enthusiastic about can take a long time, and that's good, but again, sometimes that means that people don't spend enough time on the things they're meant to, which are the materials and lighting. And so, again, the flooring, just maybe do the same thing again, but a little bit differently. Okay, so I'll select the floor. Same thing, edit type, duplicate, and so I'll call it 300mm stone, or not really stone, let's just say tile floor. Again, edit for the structure. Again, I'm going to insert a new layer for my material because I don't want this whole material, because I'm putting a lot of detail into it, don't want that material going all the way through my floor or all the way through the wall. So we don't want a situation where we're looking in the plan and we see that green marble coming up inside the wall. So that's why it's really important when you're doing these materials to think about the layering and the structure a little bit. So I'm just going to have, no, actually I'll make it 20. Okay, so 20mm for my structure. Function again, finish one. I'll go into the reasons for the different functions later, but finish one for finishes is generally fine. And then the material again. So I'm going to go back to masonry as a starting point. Again, duplicate, and we'll call this flooring, or flooring tiles or something. Okay, so again, I'm going to duplicate. Also, first I'll just get rid of that surface pattern. We don't want the brick there. And the cut pattern, again, can be no pattern for this one. But as usual, the main thing is the appearance. Right click and replace. And then the flooring folder has some pretty good stone floor tiles. And so I just have to scroll through these. You don't want too much detail. Yeah, so here the granite ones are okay. I'm just going to go for those, no black, but you can have a look through those. So again here, this has the image that's, in this case, much smaller than in the other one. So just browsing there, let's have a look at it on its own. It doesn't hurt. When you click on it here, and it's a bit hard to see what's happening, well, that is the whole image, but to show, if you want to look at it by itself, you need to browse, and so that's that PNG file, also JPEG file. And it's good just to see what one of them looks like. So it's not so bad that that it's 240. When I click on the swatch there, that's the image size. But these look like pretty big tiles. So I'd say they're about 400 AI. So again, that can be the size here. Okay, so that's for the colour, essentially. This image gives the colour to that material. But then I can use the same image for bumps as well. So it's finishes, masonry, flooring, granite, no black one. Alright, so a bit of a trick there. Just copying that to the clipboard, so it saves me some browsing. And then tick bump, and then Control V just to paste the name in instead of me going and finding it in the list there. Okay, so I'm using this image. It's clever enough to work out that these parts are the low parts and these are the high parts, and it'll give me bumps based on that image. But I've got to match the size. So probably a bit hard to see. If I make this high quality, you'll see. There we are. So the bumps don't quite line up with the edge of the tile. So again, that's 400. So I'm going to click on that and make it the same size. So it's just a little thing, but that's one of the things in the brief. So where it talks about using custom materials with these different properties. So apart from colour, you've got bumpiness, glossiness, reflectivity, and so on. And that's pretty much all I want for that material. I might make it a bit less. Oh no, so it's not very reflective, so we won't worry about that. That's okay. And again, I'll just have a look at that in realistic. Okay, so in this view, I should be able to see it, but again, it's got to be unrealistic. And that'll give me a pretty good idea about these materials. So, things like the size, I can definitely check there. And then, don't forget when you render to the cloud, things like this are going to render really quickly. So, again, that's the main thing. Just try and get some realistic materials to go with the realistic lighting, and that'll be plenty. I won't send that up to the cloud, but yeah, unless you want to do your own design, I don't mind at all if you want to come up with your own design for it. But it's going to take you less time to just replicate what's there, and it's a nice thing to try. A lot of people do study other people's designs and do replicas of them just to get a good understanding of it, and that's going to be a really good foundation for you when you start your design later, because it's nice to have the existing and base your design closely on that, if you can. So you'll have a much more detailed model of the existing building than the day class will, because they've basically just got as far as you have with the existing model, and they're already putting their design into it. And I'd say most will then focus only on their design and not worry too much about the existing elements. So that part won't look